This episode of the Edify Studios Podcast is brought to you by Vitrum Glass Group. Let Vitrum Glass Group free you from the limitations of screen printing and turn your next architectural product into a glass canvas. With digital printed ceramic frit, you can design with a variety of opacities, multiple colors, and custom designs. All created by digitally mixing ceramic inks to create a durable, UV-resistant, long-lasting design. Start today with your own custom graphic or choose from one of Vitrum's exclusive ready-to-print designs. To learn more, visit www.vitrum.ca. That's www.vitrum.ca.
Welcome to the Edify Studios Podcast, discussing the shift of architectural concepts into actual solutions, disrupting the current status quo, and having a blast the whole time. Here are your hosts, Brad Glauser and Brad Walker.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Edify Studios Podcast.
We're doing it again.
We are on it again, AIA 2019. How are you, Mr. Walker?
I'm doing excellent. They still have not kicked us off any of the medias yet.
No, we are still
So we're still
here.
invading all the spaces.
We're still here. We are.
That's what we're doing. We're taking over. It's a total takeover. We're at AIA 19. It's been an incredible show. There's about 45 million people all here to see one person.
I thought
and we
46 million, wasn't it?
46 million.
46 million, yeah. Exactly.
All here to see one person, and we were lucky enough to snag her
As she
for
walks
our
in.
show.
Claire, why don't
She
you
walks in
introduce
our
yourself?
booth.
Why don't
Hi.
you introduce yourself,
Of
Claire?
all the gin joints.
Yes, I'm Clair Marie.
Hi, Claire.
Clair Marie Wholean. Use first and middle. My parents were very creative with the name.
Claire Marie Wholean.
And I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with the Brads.
Yeah,
Brad
that's
Squared.
right. Brad
That's us.
Squared. Yeah, however it works. It just rolls off the tongue.
Name's so nice we use it twice.
Yeah. Hi, Brads.
Hi.
Well, hello.
It's good to see you. Good to meet you. We actually
Thanks.
get to know you for a little bit of the first time right now. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, this is
Wonderful.
So you guys are actually going to join us getting to know Claire a little bit.
Great.
So
and can you call me Clair Marie, please?
Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
She
No, that's
literally just talked about
she did.
the first and middle. We just went through that.
So we want to rewind that a little bit.
Claire Marie.
Hi, Claire Marie. Good to see you. Right?
Thanks, Brad.
You're very welcome.
In case of an accident, you can
Yes.
also throw in Anne Marie or Jean Marie. You know,
Okay.
any of those
Anything
are better
that-
than Claire.
Oh.
Is it
Yeah. Or even
Tell me
Marie
why.
Claire.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can reverse it. We can
Mhm.
flip
You can
it.
be creative.
But
Yeah.
two names.
Two names with
So-
a Marie.
We're one name, but two names.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
two names just in general.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
so
it.
I'm the square root. You're
Wow.
squared, I'm square root.
Man, she's
Mhm.
on it today.
And
It
very
is-
and very math heavy already.
Yeah.
At 3:06 in the afternoon,
Super
she
math
is
heavy
like
already.
bright and alive. I mean, it's
Yes.
great.
So give us a snapshot. Take us back.
Mhm.
Not that far.
Okay.
When you kind of just got into this whole game we're in now, this whole incredible
Architecture
world.
game.
Sure.
So-
Architecture game.
Yeah, we would love to know the origin story, a little bit about Claire Marie. I mean, and then we'll kind of get into some of that Arch stuff, like and making sure that people can reach out to you. But tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you made it here.
Sure. Great. Well, I was always creative as a child.
Okay.
My parents encouraged me with every art form imaginable.
Awesome.
And I
Awesome.
loved making sculptures and crafty things, paper mache. Two of my favorite things I made as a child were painted boxes. So I would make boxes out of cardboard that had lids that fit onto them, and then paper mache, and then I would paint them with intricate designs and colors.
Wow.
Like mosaic stuff. and
Kind of like African textiles.
What?
Ooh.
You know, but designed by
Yeah.
a 7-year-old.
That's incredible.
Then I also painted Keds shoes, you know, the white Keds.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
With the same designs, colorful
Did you
designs.
really?
And I sold them for $20. Yeah. This was in like 1990.
Brilliant.
That is like super
Brilliant.
entrepreneurial at
Also-
7 years old.
Kids were fly in 90.
They were
Yeah,
super
they
fly.
were really cool
super
back
fly.
then.
That was
Yeah.
the spot.
Yeah,
That was the
yeah.
spot to do it. So
Exactly.
you were lucky to be there at that moment.
Yeah.
Jump on the Keds wagon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So you're painting Keds, selling them as your first side hustle.
Yes. Yes. And then I'm just going to fast forward
Sure.
to high school.
Do it.
So I was also really into music. I have a musical mind and come from a musical family. My dad was a handyman and he worked for a music venue.
So classical?
No, all different. Every
Oh, really?
band in
Okay.
the world came there. Phish and you know,
I like it.
I'm blanking on
don't worry
Red
about
Hot Chili Peppers. And
Really?
they all came.
My son's
to
in
the
the Red
Barrymore
Hot Chili
Theater.
Peppers right now. He's actually learning them on the
okay.
guitar and going back and forth. Like so, he's getting in. He calls it like how does he say it? Like
Not classic rock.
No, he's just like that's from way back.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah, old school
That's the
music.
old
Yeah,
school.
it's old school music. I got
Retro.
I got the
Sure.
retro. I got Red Hot Chili Peppers playing. So, anyways, go ahead.
So my dad was taking me to buildings
Okay.
and exposing me to music. And I played violin too.
Oh.
And I always heard about architecture and I was interested in it. And I was thinking about being a musician. And then I thought to myself, what am I really good at? What am I naturally good at? And I just had this
How
knowing.
self-aware is this high school
That's-
student at this time?
Like
Hyper-aware.
16, 17.
Okay, like
But that's
I don't think I asked
also-
myself that question until like last Friday.
Okay, but I'll just, you can speak on this more to this than I can. I
for
have
it.
2 young boys.
Yes.
And I don't think they'll be hyper aware till 34, 35 years of age. I think that just shows you girls just tend to look at things earlier in
It's true,
such a more elaborate way. You have a boy and a girl.
Correct.
So I'm sure you're starting to see that already.
No, absolutely. So this is interesting. So at
Yeah.
age 16, 17,
Yeah, I'm
you're saying-
reflecting and just thinking, like, what can I be
Where am I
really,
going?
really successful at? So I was always an achiever. You know, I always had to get straight A's. I was one of those kids.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to do something that I knew I wouldn't be really good at. And I was
Okay.
above average at music, but I wasn't the best.
Okay.
And even though I didn't entirely know what architecture was, I just had a feeling that I would be really good at it.
That's incredible.
that is incredible, actually. So the self-awareness of a 16, 17-year-old girl walking into saying, what's the career direction I want to go, or how do I want to keep creating? Because I can see music and paper mache and painting Keds.
But in some reality, that
does
boils
inspire
down.
it, though.
But that boils right down to what some true architecture is, right?
It's true.
It's taking this canvas and sort of slapping some colors to it to a certain degree, or drawing. I mean, they used to hand draw obviously everything. So
No, right. That's very true.
So you weren't an architect unless you were a almost classically trained artist to follow the lines and to have the tools and the right things. So I see the moments of wildly creative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that is architecture, whether you like it or not. You have to be wildly creative, see things that aren't there, right?
Visioning.
Not like ghosts, right? not
Not
ghosts, or
ghosts.
something. But to see things. Visioning was a great way to say it. Is you have to be able to conceptualize something that isn't there yet, but could be and should be and will be, right?
Envisioning.
And visioning.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then you tie all those together, and I think that screams architect. To realize it is incredible, and to pursue it is even better.
So what was there classes? Was there actually different avenues? I mean, where in the country is this right now? Let's
This
talk
is in
about
Wisconsin.
Oh.
Yeah.
America.
And I had a grandfather who was an architect.
That's cool. What
too.
part of Wisconsin?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Milwaukee.
one of his sons became an architect, and his father was too. So there were 3 generations before me. Yeah.
So you kind of had it. You kind of had it a little bit at the conversation table, like
Sure.
Christmas or whatever it
Yes.
was. You should.
I knew what it was.
And did your relatives also design buildings there locally, or were they involved in projects
some were
locally?
local. So my grandfather Brust, he designed Catholic churches mostly. Some other buildings.
Unbelievable.
I think there was someone else in the family who was in the priesthood. I'm not exactly sure.
Sure.
On the
No,
details.
that's fine.
There was
Us
a lot
either.
family Catholic.
This is the first time we're hearing
connection.
this, so you can't say it wrong.
You
Yeah.
could make it up, really.
Yeah, Catholic connection.
Sure.
There's at least one beautiful church in Milwaukee that I know that was his. There's also
That's
a
so
structural
great.
engineer on that side of the family, but it actually wasn't in the blood because my dad was adopted.
Well, around the family table, I guess.
Yeah,
say,
so
you
it
know what I
was.
mean? At least
it was in a
Not
cultural.
in your
thing.
code, but in your
in the culture.
culture.
yeah.
Yes.
Osmosis.
Exactly. And I'll tell you one other fun detail
Yeah,
about
this
high
is
great.
school. So I loved organic chemistry. Absolutely.
Who doesn't?
Loved it.
Who doesn't?
Loved organic chemistry.
No, obviously.
And my one disappointment of architecture school was that I couldn't take organic chemistry. it wasn't required.
Like
for the
every
major.
high school student.
Yeah. So I have
Walks
this
down
sciencey part
the hallway,
of my brain.
just hanging their head. Where is that organic chemistry class?
That is not one of the things I hated about high school. So good for you. Ages and leaps abound above most people. That's great.
This is
Now you really know me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
they really know you too.
Yeah,
so this
no,
is
no,
actually
yes.
great. This is really good.
This is incredible. So now you're in Wisconsin, and you're still plotting your course. You decide on a direction, and then you go where?
I decide to get a scholarship.
Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up going to IIT in Chicago. I had a full ride there. I wanted to go to New York, but I didn't know about Cooper Union at the time, their tuition-free school. So I tried Pratt, but I only got a half scholarship to Pratt. So that's why I went to
Chicago.
IIT.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. However, I still wanted to go to New York. I have my heart set on that. So I actually
Sure.
transferred 2 years later and went to Cooper Union and then finished up my degree there.
Excellent.
And where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I wanted to be
Which
in New York.
is
Exactly.
Poetic. Outstanding. So you're there. You're finishing up in New York, and you're like, okay, I should probably do something now that I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, so I worked for SOM.
Oh,
That was
my
my
goodness.
first job
So
out
you
of
Skidmore
college.
You just
Owens-
stepped into SOM?
Skidmore, Owens, Merrill.
My goodness.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
talked to the right people. I
Sounds like
talked to enough people so that I could find. Basically, I talked to everyone I knew until I found someone who knew a partner.
Oh my goodness.
And you're not.
It's
I
a
probably
hustle.
shouldn't say this, but you're not really supposed to do that anymore. This was a long time
Sure.
ago.
Like the world all of a sudden changed the it's who you know policies.
Yeah.
Don't think so.
So I got my
No, it's-
interview. I went in there.
That's good.
They put me right in technical. You have to choose technical or design
Okay.
in the New York office.
Okay.
So I went into technical. I was in healthcare. My favorite mentor was Bill Sarama. He's a healthcare architect, retired now. Bill and several other people, Stefano Paci, really took me under their wing, and they taught me so much stuff. It was tremendously educational.
Project management, time
No, not quite
management,
project
or like
management.
really design type of work, or
Yeah, design, construction documents, detailing, exterior envelope, how to put together a drawing set, all that stuff. All the basic stuff
Sure.
you need to know.
Fundamentals, as it were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. It doesn't exist a lot as far as like the mentorships with, I think, within the AIA firms, and I think there's a lot of that of really good educated architects that actually have that capability. I'm not. It's interesting to kind of hear how that was fostered, I guess, within that program. That's pretty cool.
And
Yeah.
it's patience. You have to
It's
be so
patience.
patient because everything they teach you in school is great. But there's basically, if you did a Venn diagram of everything you learn in school and everything you learn on the job, there's only a tiny bit of overlap. It's pretty separate, all of the
Sure.
knowledge.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Wow. That's
So
tremendous. So SOM was your first introduction to architecture.
Yes.
That's quite an introduction.
Yes,
Yeah,
I went
I mean,
straight
it's-
into the deep end.
Yeah, you did.
but also starting at somewhere that is so wildly able to give you so much content and perspective and just broad range of what exists out there.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can get into architecture and it can be as microscopic as you want it to be in this one nook of this one niche. Or you can have somebody who really spans a globe in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of firms like them that do a vast amount, and they do it very well. So I think that's incredible that to get that much experience, though it might be like drinking from a fire hose to a certain degree.
It was.
It's still
Absolutely.
it's still a pretty tasty
Yeah.
fire hose.
Yeah.
Right.
Those
Like,
are pretty. It's the most delicious fire
it's the
hose.
most delicious.
It was immersion. It was learning by immersion.
Sure.
I
That's
had
pretty
my
rad.
projects that I was working on in technical and healthcare studio, but I was also surrounded by all these other people, and you work super long hours, so you get to know everyone very well. And I sat next to the Tower 1 team. There were 30 architects working on those drawings round the clock before they were going out. And I didn't directly work with her, but I'll mention Nicole Dosso. She's one of my role models of all time.
Yeah, we have a
she's
few.
the coolest.
Yeah.
We have a few. That's pretty
Super,
rad.
just super cool. I'm not sure of her title. I think it's director now at SOM, but she led the Tower 1 team, and just watching her, lead that team was absolutely amazing.
That's
and they also had a studio
huge
they called
responsibility.
Black Box,
Okay.
where they did all this cool new technology stuff. And Black Box would give lectures for everybody else with discussions. It was
Inside the
great.
firm.
Yeah, inside the
Wow.
firm.
And see, that's where people start to, I think, detach their understanding of the importance or the role that architects can play in things like this. Seattle recently went through a renovation of the Space Needle. To me, that is a terrifying job to win.
Oh yeah, because it's so
It's
public.
so iconic.
And iconic.
Yeah.
And
It's everybody's
You're
going to
gonna
be
be
looking at your
scrutinized.
work,
Yeah,
and you better not screw up the Space Needle, right?
exactly.
To me, that is a very similar job where every eye
Yeah,
is on you. You
the pressure.
better do a good job, right? So I think that that adds a whole other humane element that gets sort of left out of the equation so many times, because a lot of times it's just like building is a building is a building, right? And we know that it's not, but that amount of pressure, I can't even understand.
There's some people in
Oh.
this world that thrive on pressure.
And I'm glad they're there, because
But
if
there
I
was-
were asked to do it, we'd be in a heap of trouble.
No, I think what you're bringing into the conversation is the responsibility that the architectural community has, because these are the buildings that actually shape our culture, which end up shaping
Yeah.
the lives of future generations, right?
Absolutely.
And and those expressions of architecture that is now known as Tower One, and even just the healthcare facilities that you worked on, that actually take care of those individuals. It's not how many beds or what your occupancy rate, and those things are just residuals of what is going to happen, but how the jobs of the nurses and doctors and the systems and the facility managers,
Movement, flow, cleanliness.
the mic, like
Hazardous.
absolutely, like everything that's in there, the responsibility that you were able to dive in at the level of SOM in the #1 market in the world. I'm kind of like reeling through this in a little bit. We're just kind of taking inventory and maybe
He's jealous.
spending a
He's
little bit
hyper
more
jealous.
time. Like
Yes.
First off, I didn't know this. This is the first time, you know what I mean?
Oh.
And I'm anyways, it's really, really cool to actually have this opportunity to talk about
Well,
that.
thanks.
For sure.
I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's been an amazing, amazing journey, and you're only on my first job.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thank you for joining the Edify Studios podcast.
No. So that's yeah, because we're just getting cooking, right? Like that's just beginning and the shaping of the
Foundation.
of the drive, right? That's just starting to format the roadmap. So where do we go next?
Okay, so the recession happened.
It did? When? What?
2008.
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
So I
Yeah.
joined the profession right before in 2007. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about the time we started busting into this, and
Busting in this side of it. I've been a part of it since about 2002. So, and I just stayed within it. I don't know if it was smart or not, but we're here.
yeah.
You're still here. Yeah.
So no,
So no, it wasn't.
no, it was great.
You survived.
Yes,
you
you
more
did.
than survived. You thrived.
You did.
But no, go ahead. So 2008.
Yeah,
rolled
recession
around.
happened.
Okay.
A whole bunch of people were laid off from SOM. I actually made it through 6 months of layoffs, so I'm proud of myself for that.
Yes, that's huge.
Even though I had only been there for 1 year.
It's a big deal.
So then I worked freelance for a little while
Okay.
for a sole practitioner architect, and I got to get a taste of what high-end residential is like in New York City.
Oh.
Worked on an apartment that was combining 2 units on a Park Avenue building.
Okay.
Wow.
And then after that, I worked for a small firm called Kenny & Kahn Architects that does almost exclusively public schools for the School Construction Authority. And that was a really good move because those projects continue
Yeah.
through the recession.
For sure.
They happen. They're gonna happen.
You know, and before this, I was talking about kind of where we'd kind of come into doing, working together.
Yeah.
It's like through that recession time, we were working a lot of public projects. We were working on just Army bases and Navy bases nationwide, warrior and transition buildings, looking at soldier family care facilities. A lot of those projects from an exterior envelope and blast mitigation and glazing standpoint. So for us, it was the recession actually retrospectively meant a lot for making sure that the infrastructure of America still stands.
Yeah.
You know, because I think it was really important to kind of just not only see the private sector do so well, but then all of a sudden kind of take a pause, But that public sector work, I think, is just so important from like a facilities management
Wildly
standpoint.
important. Wildly
So
important.
that's really cool that you actually similarly experienced the public school nature of the side of the architecture, which is equally as important to tell you the truth.
And that's a very intense client.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they have their own design standards, and everything's very strict, the
Sure.
way they review everything.
Correct.
So that was another kind of pressure cooker. And the schedules are also super rigorous because you have to finish everything before school starts. So if the contractor is late, if something isn't built right, it has to get redone, you are under the gun and you have to finish it. So it was very intense.
What did you manage there? Did you run projects and then just run through CA or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a small firm. So that role I did move into kind of a blend between project architect and project manager there.
Okay.
And it was mostly renovations. We had some addition projects. And a lot of the buildings were between 1880 and 1940. So I got a taste of historic preservation at the same time. So it was historic preservation, schools, renovations, very technical, a lot of building code stuff, and construction administration.
Jeez. So everything. Just literally another immersion process.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was everything I didn't learn at SOM because they were a big firm. This was a small firm.
You had to do everything. Yeah, I get it. I can see that. All right.
Everything except write the checks. Now I write the checks.
Gotcha. So now bring it back in today. Tell us a little bit about where you're at, what the firm is, and your creation behind it and why.
Totally. So a few more years, I worked at a couple more small firms. Then I worked at Smith Group, worked my way down to DC. And eventually I figured out that I had this really strong interest in research and specifically building quality. And I needed the freedom to do that on my own. Because when you're at a firm, whether it's big or small, you have so many responsibilities, so many things that you need to do. If you have this pet project, the principals of the firm are usually like, great, sure, do that in your free time. But it's kind of hard to balance that and everything else.
After your 14-hour workday?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. So going off on my own was a natural choice to give me the freedom to be able to pursue some of these research interests that I had at the same time as doing projects.
Okay.
So I started Archfina almost a year ago, and that I actually only did one project because I was doing my research at the same time. Yeah, so I did a renovation of a historic home in Capitol Hill in DC, and that's in construction right now. So that was really fun. Green roof, and actually we went through zoning, had to get a special exception for the roof penthouse.
Historical project that you actually built a penthouse on top?
Exactly. Okay. Penthouse and a green roof and a roof deck. We actually cut the deck out of the roof, so it was subtracting from the attic.
Wow. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a kind of an unusual
that was via
residential project. Archfina.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, meanwhile, I had this philosophy and research about building quality that was born mostly out of my frustration. So having worked for some of the best firms.
Her frustration.
Yeah, I was very frustrated.
The most
Very frustrating. Having worked on hospitals and schools and public projects, I saw really the best of the best buildings. And everywhere else I went, I saw buildings that were crappy. And I would look at everything. I would look at the details. I would analyze them. I would check them out. And I would think, this is going to fall apart in 10 or 15 or maybe 20 years.
Sure.
Then you're rebuilding it, or you're replacing large chunks of the building. It's all going in a landfill. And think about how much money you spent on that.
Ugh.
And you will continue to spend to maintain that. Yeah.
Whether it was, a private owner or whether it was taxpayer money, it's a waste financially, and it's a waste in the landfill.
For sure.
So I had this problem in my mind of, how do we solve this? How do we get the profession to build higher quality buildings?
Or was there anything happening along that same conversation elsewhere in the industry? Or was it more kind of, you felt like this was a mission for you?
I felt like it was a mission for me because building quality, when you say it, it sounds kind of nebulous. People don't really know what you're talking about.
Sure.
And most of the emphasis in the profession, it's on sustainability, resiliency, other things. But I saw, life cycle cost. Life cycle cost and life cycle analysis really goes with building quality. Because if you look at longevity is a major factor in building quality. So what I set out to do was to create a system for measuring building quality, because you can't improve something you don't know how to measure. If you want to lose weight, you need a scale,
Okay.
right? You
Okay.
always need a measuring stick. And what's happening in the industry is the healthcare buildings are doing one thing, the office buildings are doing another thing, multifamily is doing another thing. And most of the ways that they're evaluating buildings, whether it's facility condition assessments or other forms of building analysis,
Right.
they are very qualitative. And they don't give you that much of a metric.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what I wanted to do was to compare building quality to finance, to the economics. Because if you look at economics, there's a theory that I love called the two boots theory. Do you know
Two boots
this?
theory. Enlighten us.
I don't think that I do.
Enlighten us.
Yeah.
Imagine that there's a poor man and a rich man,
Okay.
and they both need a pair of boots. So the poor man just buys whatever he can afford.
Correct.
Doesn't matter what it's made of, whatever he can buy. The rich man will probably get a really high quality version that's going to last a long time.
Okay.
So the poor man's boots wear out, and either he has to repair them or he might have to replace them 2 or 3 or even 4 times in the same amount of time that the rich man had one pair of boots.
Okay.
So even if the poor man's boots were cheaper in the beginning, he ends up spending more money than the rich man. This is a major problem, and the same issue happens, with poverty all over the world. But bringing it back to architecture, a lot of what's going up right now in the industry is poor man boots of buildings.
Disposable almost.
Disposable buildings,
Right.
yes. And I would define that as a building that has a life cycle of less than 25 years for most of its systems.
Which is wildly short. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
in retrospect of architecture, what
If you look at history.
you look at history. You
go back to the churches.
Yeah.
You're talking
Exactly.
about churches. Those churches are some of the only things that last from civilizations because of how they're built, right?
Yeah.
And we're
Absolutely.
talking 20 years, which is a nothing amount of time.
It's 1/3 of a lifetime, or even 1/4 of a lifetime.
Right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And it's changed over history, because if you look at pre-1940, most of those buildings will last 100 plus years. If you do
Interesting.
a few renovations, if you upgrade the building systems, mechanical,
Electrical.
Yeah,
Some
do-
structural seismic
yeah,
stuff.
a
Right.
little bit of upgrades,
Yeah.
and you can
Windows.
easily get 100 years. Totally. Yeah. But that's all changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to see a movement of looking towards designing and building higher quality buildings.
How long was this a complaint for you?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
I think I became aware of it probably about 2 to 3 years into my career.
Okay.
So almost 10 years ago.
So through SOM, realizing it, but you mentioned qualitative. through it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So-
I mean, I had a qualitative understanding of this early in my career. It's definitely something that was percolating in my mind. And
But then
I wouldn't have
became-
been able to explain it very well back then.
No, and you're obviously well versed on it now. I actually, it's very engaging because we talk about this from a manufacturer and product and engineering standpoint all the time on the product side of things, and making sure that the life cycle is not just a simple payback program. We're actually looking at of a total holistic design, right? And it's an understanding of not only that it meets a certain specification because it is made of aluminum, so to speak, or a certain species of wood. It's not that, but it's the overall longevity of that product being put within the project. So it's interesting to talk about, but I'm just curious from like a philosophy standpoint. It was percolating. When did it start become like absolutely obvious? You started
Archneura.
Archneura, but so Archfina came aboard, did one project, and then it became just so gripping that we're just like, I gotta do this. It's
Yeah.
just like stop
Well-
complaining about it and go for it.
Exactly. So I had the research kind of in my back pocket
Okay.
already at the time that I started Archfina. But at that point, I had maybe 3 or 4 different directions that the research could go, because it has applications. It has applications in real estate finance. It has applications in risk management, the insurance for real estate.
It's very
It
true.
touches a lot of other
very true.
things, building quality. So I wasn't really sure. I was just rolling around in my mind and on paper, what is the right application of this? And I decided it needs to be measured. first of all. And I could work out the other applications later.
Sure. Okay. So Archneura
Archneura
was born.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
talk about that. That's interesting.
So Archneura was created to launch the Building Quality Index. So that's the measurement system for building quality, and it's based on 4 different parameters. Have you heard of the triple bottom line?
Have not heard of the triple bottom line.
Okay.
And I'm very. This is mind bending for us. I mean, because we talk a lot about the direction we want to take, and disrupt that. And I'd love to hear the disruption of basically saying, no, we're going to actually put pen to paper. We're going to actually put measuring tape to board, and we're going to actually do this project. So tell me about that.
Sure.
I'm very interested.
So triple bottom line, it's actually a concept from business, not in architecture. If you want to evaluate a company's performance, you can look at its social performance and its environmental.
Go ahead, though.
So you know.
Yes. Yep.
What I did is I added in process to make it quadruple bottom line. Because in architecture, the design process is critical. If you change how you design it, you change the building.
So your qualitative research led you back into, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, to bring a business format to architecture process, or bring the process.
It's a framework.
Okay, yeah.
It's a framework. So you know how in LEED, like it has sustainable sites, and then it has water, and then it has energy. You know, those different categories.
Innovation.
Yes,
Yeah.
These 4 groupings are the categories.
Got it.
You need some kind of category, otherwise it's just a whole big bucket of stuff.
Just flomping around.
Which every project basically has been.
Or can become very quickly.
Yeah, it can. It can get very loose. Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
So the 4 parameters each have data points. And those data points are what defines building quality. There's 70 plus points. Some of those are yes, no parameters. Other of those have a hierarchy within them. And they're each given a numeric score. So the 4 categories can add up to a number of points. I say add up, but it's not entirely a sum. It's more like a system of relationships. And there's an equation for each. So there's 4 equations that then come together in one big equation. And what this is, in math language, is an optimization problem. Because you don't want to build the highest quality Taj Mahal for every building. It doesn't make economic sense. But you want to build...
the process to go through what it would take to do the Taj Mahal doesn't necessarily detract from the overall cost and cost of the project.
The bulk of it can't be that different if it's done right.
True.
But
right?
True.
Okay, go ahead, though. I'm interested
What I mean
in this.
by optimization is that there's a sweet spot.
Yes.
You can go all the way. You can put all the bells and whistles. You can
Sure.
put the fanciest windows and doors. Everything you ever wanted.
Sure.
But there's only so much money that is reasonable and realistic to spend.
Sure.
So
Per project.
what is the optimization? What's the optimal amount of money to spend where you get a good amount of longevity, a good amount of durability, where you get social impact, a lot of good performance, environmental performance, resiliency, all these other things. What's the optimal amount? And so what this BQI has done is to create numbers that show you where is that optimal range.
It's to give indicators to make sure that can actually
Yes.
be. So is this software driven?
It will be.
Okay.
So right now it's applied math.
Okay.
And the stage that it's currently at, I am looking for buildings to enroll in the system. And then once I get all of that data.
Wink, wink.
Yes, please. Bring me your buildings.
Bring the buildings around.
Any commercial building can enroll.
Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
So, I mean, from knowing the school lifespan and understanding what that client actually wanted in that smaller firm, I mean, have you actually talked to that industry? Have you actually came back to those owners and said, hey, this is the direction of building quality index?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you've thought about going down the path and like introducing it to them, or are they?
Mm-hmm.
How's the reception been?
I'm just starting that process.
Just starting the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, I just launched. The website just went live.
What's the website? Tell us the website.
Archneura.com.
Spell
Spell it out for us.
ARCHNEURA.
.com.
Yeah, so it's like architecture and neuron, but
Ooh.
Neura.
Neura.
Yeah.
Archneura.com.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll post that here, and we'll make sure the links are on there as well. And what are they going to find when they get there?
It's a bit general.
Okay.
There's
so more brochure driven right now.
Yes.
Okay.
There's more stuff that's going to go on
but
there.
It has to be right now. We can I
Yeah.
warm it up a little bit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really just starting at this point, and I'm also working on a bunch of white papers to describe how you can use the BQI. What is the functional purpose and what is the value proposition for the BQI?
Infographic driven or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Info, graphics, fun stuff, and math.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the plan with the BQI, and then what's the plan with Archneura? Like, what's your next step?
Sure.
Like, what can we plan on?
The plan is to enroll sets of 200 buildings. And the reason for that is that quality is benchmarked according to the industry. So the 200 buildings is like a microcosm of the industry at large. There's a percentile, there's a score for each of these 4 areas. Then that is given a percentile for the industry and a percentile for the sector, if you're healthcare, education, etc.
Okay.
So I'm finding those 200 buildings, and the logical next step after that is to continue it, and you can use that data for so many things. You can use it for economic analysis. You can use it for a deeper understanding of risk in the insurance industry,
Wow.
for real estate, and you can use that to help owners make better financial decisions.
I would see that from a like a business standpoint, like any like owner is going to bring that within their like an opportunity for their project.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you what's your pitch to them? How do you actually say like, hey, I like this BQI is here. We would like to do this. We'd like to offer it. If you could talk to that owner now, I don't care if it's in educational or healthcare
Sure.
or hospitality, like you choose the sector, but what would you say to them?
I would ask them if they know the impact that their building quality has on their finances, because probably they don't know. And what this information does is it fills that gap.
That's, I think, super interesting. And I think it goes
I'm
because
thinking on a couple of things, but go ahead.
Because I think it falls down a couple of different lanes. Everybody wants ROI,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody wants ROI, but that means something different in different formats, right?
Exactly.
ROI could mean I'm making a lot of money because I'm building something people want in a place that they're going to need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
That's not ROI that you would normally get, but that could be considered ROI. So that they could overlook potential opportunities that would exist in looking at it from this format that could, they're going to get ROI the way they're looking, but this could extend that even beyond what they could think of, and it also makes it so that they understand the sustainability of it in a different zone or different market. I think that's wildly fascinating because ROI is everything to so many projects.
Well, it's tremendous.
Or leasable square footage, or those are the things that we hear on the constant from the developers and the owners is I need to make sure that I am not just, I don't want to build a building to be a landmark for me and in my legacy. Some do, most don't. That's their business, right?
Well, and I think about it in a couple formats of not only the ROI and how they're getting back out of it, but the buyout processes. We talk a lot about buyout processes through making sure that the craftsman, the artisan, the project manager, the guy that's actually doing the work, applying himself, has that 40 years of industry knowledge or 25 even, bringing that application to the work. There's so much inside that knowledge of bringing that into the place. You're actually now quantifying a lot of that over a good amount of project history, and then allowing that not to necessarily die off because just simple attrition that's going to happen if this artisan guy is no longer in the market. He no longer has the opportunity to come and give that feedback for that project. You're actually documenting and putting it into an index that's going to then backfeed the system to make smarter decisions coming forward.
It becomes really useful for portfolios. If you have a lot of buildings, if you just measure one building, it's not that useful.
No.
But if you look at a lot in context of each other, it becomes tremendously informative, and you can see which buildings are falling short, which buildings may need what kind of improvements.
So is this on existing structures as well, on existing buildings that are looking forward to renovation?
It is designed for any existing building.
Okay.
You can't really use it if it's not built yet, and there will most likely be a later phase where there's a BQI design tool.
Yeah, I had two opposite directions. So you're talking about the BQI design tool for future structures. That's later.
So right now it's not a design tool. Right now it's an existing building quality benchmarking tool.
Okay.
And what can happen later is once we do multiple data sets, multiple groups of these 200 buildings, we'll know what is a BQI 500 building. Then later, architects can say, okay, we're going to build, this one's going to be a BQI 400 because that's appropriate for this sector.
Sure.
And there will be an optimal budgetary range that is aligned with that.
Who sets the standards for the numbers? Is it you? Are you making it up as you go?
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, I wouldn't quite
Archneura.
say make it up as I go.
No, I would.
There's-
I already
I
did.
think the data back feeds the
I
data.
already
right?
did.
There's industry standards.
Yes.
So anything that there is an industry standard for, it's referring to that.
Got it.
Any sort of ASTM, any sort of ASHRAE,
Sure.
even some specialized consultants like Terrapin Bright Green biophilic patterns are embedded within
example.
it.
For example,
Can you say that one more time?
Terrapin Bright Green biophilic patterns.
Can we put that in the subtitle?
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I highly recommend it. It's really great design patterns for just helping people love
So-
nature and buildings.
Yeah.
And what about products or processes and scoring programs like LEED or Passive House or
Yeah.
Living Building Challenge, the green building districts, right?
Those are great.
okay.
I love all of those.
So are they going to also backfeed inside the
They do.
BQI? Oh, they do.
Exactly.
Okay.
So BQI is an umbrella that goes over all of this stuff. It's very broad. It's very big picture. If the building had any of those things, LEED, BREEAM, etc., it's great. The information from those is used to make the BQI more accurate. There's a hierarchy of all the data points within BQI. A lot of them have hierarchy. The green building rating systems do have a hierarchy, and they're based on performance data. Energy use. What was on your utility statement? That's a little bit more important.
That was my next question regarding like energy service companies that are actually going to be then working with building management systems that are then backfeeding, okay, what's the real time happening? Or like we're going to close this window and open up this clean air return and then make sure the mechanical, but also does it go, this is just fascinating. So it's an umbrella. Keep discussing it further. I'm sure I'm going to have more questions, but go ahead.
So those systems are compared based on quantitative metrics that you can pull from each.
All right.
So utility statements, for example, that's a required documentation. If you want to enroll a building, you have to have the utility statements. If you did commissioning, that's also required if you did it. And from information like that, as well as, if you had an energy model, we'll start to see, first of all, did you achieve what you set out to do in the rating system?
Right.
Because a lot of times it's aspirational, but then there isn't the follow through. They didn't do the commissioning and it didn't quite reach everything it wanted to do. So BQI is looking more at the actual performance than what score was received.
Does this then result into product performance?
Product performance.
Like
what
so,
do you
like
mean?
like if you're looking at the commissioning of a building and you're looking at the air barrier, you're looking at the air performance of the overall envelope of the project, right?
Totally.
And then you're going to backfeed that data into saying,
Yep.
okay, meeting these certain standards are going to allow for these.
There's a minimum threshold that we need
Exactly.
to make sure that they adhere to.
That's ASTMs. So when I said that certain data points have a hierarchy, that hierarchy
And a more point value system based
is
upon the hierarchy?
based upon the ASTM.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
the 70 plus points, if you drilled into the 70 points, I can take 1 point and there's probably 2 pages explaining why it is what it is.
And that's the white papers you're kind of currently working on right now?
Connected. Yeah,
Okay.
they're not done yet, but
Sure.
yes.
You're working on connecting.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah, and part of it is that each of these 70 points is a variable, and they affect each other. So, for example, you might do one, and then you don't need to do this other one, but you shouldn't be penalized. Like if you have a green roof, you shouldn't lose points because you didn't do solar on your roof.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Do a green solar roof at the same time as you're actually doing photovoltaic panels in the windows?
Only
Or what?
shade-loving plants.
Oh, yes.
Only shade.
Yeah.
Photovoltaic plants.
Photovoltaic plants.
Wow.
There it is.
New innovation.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, this
started
is
on that.
absolutely, this is fascinating. So, so your timeline have been about a year since you've been working on this. Where do you see yourself in the next 12 months? What can people look forward in the next quarter? And then where do we need to go to access
That's
some of
great.
that stuff right now?
So I'm going to say 6-month time frame
Yeah.
because each batch of 200 buildings is a 6-month review period.
Okay.
And that's for data collection, sorting, organizing, and analyzing.
Gotcha.
So the first batch of reports will come out in December. And then starting in January 2020 will be the second batch.
Gotcha. And how much is in that? How many buildings are in that batch?
Ideally 200.
Oh, okay.
That
so it
is to
there.
replicate the industry. It's a microcosm of
Gotcha.
the industry to get
Interesting.
that industry percentile.
So it's very important to take the 200 chunks. Gotcha.
I mean, yeah, you could do 100, but from a statistical point of view, I'm not really comfortable with that. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't present that.
No, it's fair. No,
It's fair.
it gives
to make it accurate. It
Hey.
really needs to be a good chunk of buildings.
No, it's.
There's a lot of variation.
I like
think
that you're bullish
makes
about
sense.
that.
And I think
actually.
that has to be a foundational rule. Like that's how the data is going to come to be right. Right? Like I get it. That makes sense.
So
Wow.
people have to know there is a time. It's not instant. Because it involves reviewing a lot of documents and then extracting that information. And currently, there isn't really an automated way to do that. I hope that with AI and some other tools, it'll become automated.
Well, and that's the
It
direction.
might be able to.
And that's the other direction I talk about. A lot of the energy services companies and the direction they're taking ROI and actually commutative ROI on projects and then looking at building management systems. We know that you've seen the overwhelming BIM, Revit, AI, VR world kind of infiltrate this area. Now we're actually looking at the other side of the token and future planning of things of actually these 3D buildings that we're currently in now, that we're currently inhabiting, are now being built in that virtual 3D world, and then even measured within actually a life cycle of what that 3D structure can and will do based upon certain product information and certain engineering that's involved with it.
Wow.
Are you about to go to that level?
I would love it to go to that level, yeah. So one of the great applications of predictive analytics is the BQI. It would be amazing to sit with Revit and have a Revit plugin that would show you, if I make this design change, here's the change on the BQI graph. Here's what percentile it moves
And then
you.
that's seasonal as well? We're looking in like winter,
Seasonal?
summer, swing seasons.
What do you mean seasonal?
So not necessarily the BQI is seasonal. I'm just saying as far as how the building reacts in different ASHRAE markets. You mentioned ASHRAE, so like climate zones.
There's already a great software that does that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I'm forgetting the name, but
No,
yeah.
it's okay.
there's
Let
one.
us know what it is. We'll post
I
it.
will.
We'll post it back
Yeah.
on so they can actually get it too.
Yeah.
That's
That
actually
we'll-
a great resource.
And I love when somebody says they're already a great something for that, because that's the reality that some people get hung up on is like, I'll do all of it. If there's something that's already good and going,
Yeah.
let it be, right?
Well,
Makes sense.
It sounds like we got to actually have a follow-up visit here in the next 6 months then.
There's got to be.
I'd love to.
It's got to happen. It has to happen. That's what I love about these shows specifically is that, well, at least in my world,
Because there's only his world.
there's, well, that's the one I care about.
Hello.
In my world, nobody wants to hear me talk about this at all.
What do you mean?
Like friends
over
and family,
over the dinner
and, like,
table, at the barbecue,
like
out in the back deck.
neighbors,
You
when
know
I'm
what I
at
mean?
football with
It's
my
too
kids.
nerdy for
Oh
them?
my gosh, are you kidding me?
Well, I'm happy to talk about it anytime.
But that's what it's great. That's what's great about these conventions and these shows and such, is that you do get to align with people that you've maybe never met before, or you have met before
Right.
but never have dove into a certain topic. But to be able to I mean, honestly, this is fascinating.
Yeah,
Sincerely,
Clair
no
Marie,
joke.
this is, and I got it right, Clair Marie.
Yes, you did.
Yes, good job.
Finally.
It is. It really is at a place where I think we're kind of turning a culture of, inviting that into the space where we need this. It's I think
But don't get it wrong. It's super nerdy.
Oh, it's super nerdy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what
I
we
am
love
happy
about it.
about
No,
that.
that's what
I
we
love
love
it.
about it.
Let's get nerdy.
And that's what it's so great to be able to share with people and have people like yourself here, so we can sort of nerd out and
I like it.
just let it just be out there.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. I can't say anything but good things about you and what you've done. And
Thanks.
And just a delightful guest. And
Yeah,
Thanks.
wonderful.
so much fascinating information.
Such a surprise to have you come up. We got to know you through Michelle, and that was a Instagram connection that all of a sudden turned into be like, hey, you want to do this? And we're like, yes, we absolutely want to.
Please.
Very, very pleasant surprise to have you on the Edify Studios
Sincerely.
podcast. It's so
Delightful.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely delightful.
I'm honored.
We're honored.
We tie off the show with a what we call the Edify Top 2.
Ooh.
Right? So
Edify Top 2.
Edify Top 2 is where we
Squared.
actually
Top squared.
To the power of 2.
and it's based upon something that you're currently obsessed with. Like currently think about the last 24 hours, last
Two things that you're just jamming on.
It can
I'm
be
so
like
excited.
a Netflix show.
Could be a
It could
song.
be a song. I'm currently loving like 90s 90s top 40 right now. Like I'm just absolutely diving into it super deep, right?
Blame it on the rain.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Nope, that's not it. Dang it. Anyway, so go ahead. We would love to
You have to give us 2.
Okay.
2 points.
I have it, and they're
All right.
both
Oh, geez.
still. They're
Gosh,
still
that
in
was quick.
architecture.
She had
and
both of
they're
them
really
like
nerdy.
holstered up.
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start with vegetated architecture.
Vegetated architecture.
Your term,
So is
your
this-
glossary.
so
your
this
I
is
made
like-
this term, yeah. I
is
made
this
it
like
up.
Yeah, it's so
biomimicry?
great though.
No, it's not biomimicry.
Okay.
Vegetated architecture is any combination of vegetation and architecture.
Oh,
Any combination.
So green roof, but you
Vegetation,
could also have a green wall.
architecture.
You could have green planters. You could have columns that
Love
have
green
plants
walls.
coming
Love
out of it.
green walls.
yes.
Any form of mixing together buildings and plants. So every time I see a project that has mixing together buildings and plants, I put hashtag vegetated arch.
Let's do.
Let's do
okay,
it.
let's do it. Let's actually put
Vegetated
Vegetated arch.
vegetated
arch. I'm in.
It's super
I'm all
nerdy.
in.
I like it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
love it.
So
It
there's
makes
one.
me so happy.
And we have the good fortune of being from the Seattle side, which has the Amazon spheres, which are completely vegetated.
Super green. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Super
actually
green.
there's actually
Like,
yeah.
There's like 10 million
Have you-
species of plants.
When you come out to Seattle,
Uh-huh.
let's hook up. And
I'd
let's,
love to
let's
see
go
it.
through
You
it,
gotta do the spheres.
and we'll put
Great.
you into the spheres.
yeah.
Yay.
If you want to talk about vegetated architecture,
Oh,
Cool.
whoa,
I'm
just
excited.
amazing.
dumb.
Okay.
So okay, go. That's number one. Let's go number 2.
The next one is in physics, the theory of entanglement.
Organic chemistry high school is coming out again.
So this is
Repeat that
physics.
again.
This is
I
physics.
know. I'm
Theory of
just joking. Go ahead. Go
It
ahead.
sounds like 2 octopus fighting. And what would happen naturally? But I could be way off. Shot in the dark.
Fighting or mating?
Shot in the dark.
I got a really good visual. Okay,
Yes.
that is a piece of art.
Okay.
Somebody's got to draw
I'm gonna get that.
That-
I'm getting
really
that
nice
tattoo
drawing.
later tonight.
That can go on a.
That's
Ke-
my
that can
first
go on
tattoo.
Keds, bro. That can go on some Keds.
Oh, yeah.
Each
I'm
Ked has
serious.
one, and
Each
they
Ked-
just fight
Yeah.
The one tentacle is coming onto the other foot.
I like it.
shoelaces.
All right. So repeat it again. I need to hear it from my brain.
Okay, in physics, the theory of entanglement.
The theory of entanglement in physics. All right. Let's let you rap on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What does that mean?
What?
Okay,
is
the
that?
scientists have proven that 2 subatomic particles in different parts of the universe affect each other.
Through like the butterfly effect. Or-
I don't
the
know that
theory
it's
of entanglement.
necessarily the butterfly effect, but that 2 subatomic particles that are a very vast difference, physical difference,
Distance.
like light years away from each
Okay.
other, affect each other.
Wow.
Through entanglement.
Entanglement is the word for describing the effect
Sure.
of
Okay.
2 subatomic particles on each other across
So
a large distance.
This has just happened within the past like couple weeks or something like that.
I
or-
don't know. I heard about it from a
Yeah.
professor.
Okay, so what was the story behind that? Did you say like, "Hey, professor, do you want to tell me about entanglement?" And he's like, "Yeah, let me tell you about entanglement."
So I'm taking taking math,
Okay.
extra, like advanced math stuff to
For fun?
well, it's
Just
kind
in
of
your
for
spare
fun,
ti-
but
in your spare time.
it's to support
Because
my business.
PQI doesn't have any
Right.
other spare time. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think he was giving an example. He was giving an example about black holes. I'm not exactly sure what the context was, but
That's fine.
it was a physics example. It was a math problem that had a physics example, and then he brought up entanglement.
Wow.
And the reason why I love that
Yes.
is because I have always thought to myself, everything is interrelated.
Sure.
And nothing exists in isolation, even though we try to put things in these neat little boxes.
Or the vacuums. Yeah, exactly.
They don't really work like that.
No.
That's just not the way the world works. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. Everything is related.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was just brilliant for me that these scientists somehow figured that out.
Wow.
And proved it.
Well, theoretically, now our worlds are entangled. So that is now a thing.
And theoretically, they have been for quite some time.
That may be more allegedly, but I'm going to go with
Space and time continuum. I was Doc Brown, bro. I'm about to push this flux
I'll
capacitor
be
right
Marty
now.
McFly.
Yes, Brads.
Let's do
I'll
it.
be George McFly. I'm done. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah, this is
It's
wonderful.
been
Thank you for
wonderful.
being part of it.
A pleasure.
For helping us edify, for keeping the everything moving, but just for everything. Sincerely, thank you so
And
much.
give us those handles one
Absolutely.
more time. And
I'm
give
thrilled.
us the website. Give us the handles one more time. We want to make sure we reiterate it as much as possible. Go ahead.
Okay. Website is archneura.com, ARCHNEURA.com.
Excellent.
The Archneura hashtag is Brain of Buildings.
Brain of buildings.
Yeah. And then my other favorite hashtag is Vegetated Arch.
Vegetated arch.
Yeah.
And how can they find you on social media?
On Twitter and Instagram, I'm Clair AIA, spelled CLAIR AIA. And LinkedIn, my whole name, Clair Marie Wholean.
Excellent.
Outstanding. And the website one last time, just because a lot of people are still trying to write down
Thanks.
Vegetated
Yeah.
arch.
Archneura, architecture plus neuron minus the N, ARCHNEURA.com.
Excellent.
We are better and smarter now for having you on the show. And
Yay.
sincerely, once again,
It was actually a
too.
very bright
Such
3
a
o'clock
great-
event. So thank
such a
you
great
so
way to
much
end
for
it.
joining
Thank
us.
you.
Our day.
We appreciate it. Yeah, we'll catch you next time on Edify Studios Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Edify Studios podcast with hosts Brad Glauser and Brad Walker. To learn more about Edify Studios, visit www.edify-studios.com. That's www.edify-studios.com.